We are live. You there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Got to turn the sound on first. Oh, I got to turn my sound on.
You turn yours down?
I got mine on now. Testing. Siblings.
See if I can pull this up real quick.
Right.
Before we get into our questions.
I'm going to make a new graphic real quick. Oh, shit. I closed out everything.
Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can. The chat live right now?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me get on. Yeah, we're live. We are
totally behind on this one.
Huh?
Let's see here. Okay, cool. Got it.
Why is this on two channels? Sorry, Gooman. I don't know, because I own two companies. Twin, what's up? Matt Davis, Sean Turner, what's up? My Korean needs a little work. Tom, did I say that right? The topic for today, we got some questions lined up. Yeah, we like to have fun on Thursdays.
Yeah, so the questions today, I have a few. So the first one, Justin, I wanted to ask. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Hold on. All right. So when you're dieting for a show, what is the first manipulation you make when fat loss stalls? Do you add cardio or do you reduce food or both at the same time?
The first thing is you got to start manipulating your girlfriend. Set the tone for the... I'm sorry. What do I do? Can you ask again? I heard manipulation. All I could think was
when dieting for a show, what is the first manipulation you make when fat loss stalls? Add cardio or reduce food or both?
Oh, geez. Well, I can't answer that. There's not just one thing. Typically, it would depend on why it stalled, and it usually it stalls late enough in prep that it's probably going to be some combination of more cardio and lower food. My general approach is the first month or so of the diet is just diet manipulations, not really much cardio, just reducing calories. And then after about a month in, around 12 weeks out, then we'll start adding fat burners, not, just like ephedrine, caffeine, if ephedrine's legal in your country. And then around 10 weeks out, add some more fat burners like Clen. 12 weeks out, cardio would start ramping up. And then I try to have the diet more or less as hard as it's going to get around 6 weeks out. And then we'll kind of ride that in until you're stage ready. And if that happens early, we'll add food. But it really, I can't just give a single answer because I'd have to know that, there's so much more why it was stalling. But it usually, there's just too many variables. I couldn't even give an answer. Jimmy, what's up? Conspiracy topics. If you guys ask the questions, we'll cover them.
Yeah. And, I think like Justin, you and I have both found out over the last couple of years that sometimes, when things stall out, there's nothing you can do but take a little bit of time off. Sometimes your body just gets to the point that it's like, hey, dude, we're not going to respond anymore. Like no matter what we do, and you're just not going to look good on stage.
Yeah, and that's a tough decision to make because those happen late.
You'll be like 2 or 3 weeks out, and you're like nothing.
Yeah, because you'll start getting some sense when 6, 5 weeks out, things aren't popping like they should.
Yeah,
and then you you hope it turns around, and sometimes it does, but that's a tough decision to make at the 3-week out mark when you know you're not going to be ready. Yes, it kind of like lasting how long is a piece of string. Good analogy, Matt. Yeah, should you add a refeed at once every week when getting shredded? I have at least one high day every week, and I keep one cheat meal in even as long as possible for most competitors.
Yeah, it looks like we have a question. Natty lifter after competition, I got 9 kilograms. I'm assuming, he gained that. Is that what you're saying? You gained that in weight? Ate a lot of junk food. Yeah. And want to get ready to off season. Do I have to diet?
No, I mean, 9 kilograms is, almost 19 pounds of, there's no way you gain 19 pounds of fat. That would be a caloric surplus of 66,500 calories roughly. So you probably, you'd have to eat a lot of calories, but I'm sure you did gain some fat. Most of it's water.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. But you need to get on a structured diet. You need to get back to eating clean food, especially as a natural competitor. You don't have the room to maneuver. You can't because if you get above 12% body fat, you're fucked. Your testosterone levels are going to decrease. Your aromatization of estrogen is going to increase, and you can't take anabolics and anti-estrogens to counteract that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Here's another question. So this one, I think, if you guys are in America watching, I think this has to be a little bit of a jab at USAPL or drug tested federations. I'm not sure, but let me just read it. Okay, so I got one question. Why are all the natty powerlifters, they seem to be stronger than the people on juice? Well, since I'm I've only been out of powerlifting for a few years, which seems like forever, but because it's more of that sport's more of a what have you done for me lately, I guess, like all other sports. But I would say that no body or government or anything that has to do or be around money, right, is going to be 100% have their hands clean. I think there's always a little bit of a little bit of dirty play going on. Sometimes when you have, I'll say my opinion, right? This is just my opinion. This doesn't mean anything. But it is funny when you look at the numbers of natty powerlifters, and then you look back, even let's just say 8 to 10 years, right? 8 to 10 years, right? Because science hasn't evolved insane in 8 to 10 years that natural guys are lifting more than the guys who were fully blast on juice 10 years ago, right? So that was still 2013, right? So we've got guys now in the same weight class squatting 200 pounds more, pulling 200 pounds more than, guys that were gassed up 10 years ago. So take that as what you will. I think that certain people don't fail tests because they are the money makers for the powerlifting federation. And if, they sort of get a little bit of a pass, it just so happens that, no one ever sees them take their drug test, or if they do, and here's the thing, powerlifting used to be regulated by the International Powerlifting Federation. And when USAPL in particular, got out of the IPF, who's to regulate, right? So they pretty much have free will of however they want to do their drug testing and whatever, because they don't have to answer to anyone anymore. So I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm just saying that you are right. A lot of the natty guys nowadays are totaling a lot more than the geared guys. Well, could be that they're eating a lot of duck eggs, and they might not be as natty as you think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The other thing too is, remember, they're called anabolics. They increase nitrogen retention. They're really much better at hypertrophy than they are at strength. You clearly get a boost in strength. But John, it's not like you were weak natural, So no. I know what he's talking about, because it's been that complaint has been in the powerlifting world for decades,
Yeah. Well, when I was USAPL, and I was on the IPF World team, and I medaled at IPF Worlds. And so I was benching closer to 500 at 220, 100% natural, never touched a thing. I was 22. I think I was in competition. The biggest I benched was 470 paused. And I was a junior lifter. I was 100% natural.
Yeah. So natural powerlifting is much closer to geared powerlifting than natural bodybuilding is to good bodybuilding.
Yeah. And so, I was benching almost 500 raw natty. And so I know when you're at a high level natural, when you take stuff, how it transfers over, and it does transfer over well. But there are levels to this where it's like, hey man, you've hit 800 squats in a week and you're recovering that fast.
Yeah.
That's a red flag. So there's no way that you're going to be able to recover from that natty. And I'm not calling anyone out, but I've seen some stuff that I'm like, it's very interesting.
So, okay. There was someone that had a question I was going to answer. Jefferson, pleasure meeting you also. When I say cheat meal, what do I consider a cheat meal? Any meal that's not on plan. I mean, this is the hardest thing because I don't know a good way to describe it, but it's a break from the diet. So if you are worrying about the calories you're eating, if you're worried about macronutrients, then it's not a cheat meal. It's not a break from the diet, but calories still count. So what it's for is whatever you've been craving all week, that's what you should be eating. But if you eat a pound of deep fried butter, don't expect to be a better bodybuilder because of it. But if you've been craving sushi and a big cookie and it's eating at you all week, and I give you that cheat meal, eat the sushi and cookie so that we know you're not going to crack on a low day or a day where you're not expecting it. And then I'll adjust, the cheat meal is adjusted. It's open-ended to start. If you're not progressing well enough and we've adjusted the diet around it, then we'll put a calorie limit on the cheat meal. But to start, if you want me to describe it, then I'll just remove the cheat meal from the diet because it's not doing its purpose anymore. If I'm telling you what to eat, I'm not going to tell you to eat a cheat meal. The cheat meal is a break from the diet. It's one meal where you're not a bodybuilder. Let your girlfriend go out to dinner with your girlfriend. Let your family see you as a normal human for 45 minutes. It's that, and get the cheats out, or get the cravings out of your system.
Justin, that the question by Jefferson Thomas is a good one. What type of leg training increases testosterone more, myofibrillar training or sarcoplasmic? I don't care to grow my legs all that much, just want to optimize.
Man, as a non-natty, I'm not really mega up to date on the science.
Talking about test levels,
yeah. I mean, because my first thought would be myofibrillar for sure, but I don't know that absolutely because I think I remember reading a study on higher rep and and how it affected lactate threshold and testosterone production. But actually, well, on a side note though, if you really only care, Chaos and Pain put out some pretty cool articles, two separate articles around 2014 or 15 discussing alcohol and testosterone levels. And they looked at some of the really cool stuff the Eastern Bloc countries were doing years ago, where they were using high bolus dose alcohol immediately following training to get a boost in testosterone. Testosterone is just interesting because it really does seem like manly things increase testosterone. If you get in a fight, like testosterone levels will be elevated for a period of time afterwards. Don't quote me on this because the timing and the exact wording might not be right, but if you booze it up after a workout, and what the study was, God, I wish I had it in front of me. I wasn't prepared for this, but one Eastern Bloc country, they were giving their super heavyweights the equivalent of half a liter of vodka in one drink after their heavy sessions to boost testosterone. Half a liter is a lot. I mean, a liter is a good amount, more than a fifth. Yeah, I mean that's more than a pint. Yeah, it's like a pint and a half, just chugging it, getting hammered.
Should I drink a 40? No, I don't drink I mean, you can.
You could, but you got to. Those are rookie numbers. You got to up those numbers. You got to. No, I'm not going to tell anyone to do something stupid. But Chaos and Pain around 2014, 2015. I used to have them saved. I'll put them somewhere if I think of it. But I mean, yeah, 40 ounce after leg day. I don't know. Sometimes after a leg workout, I could use a drink.
Hold on. Well, there's one question we skipped right from our friend over in Korea. How many rest days do you recommend for natty? I used to work. Dude, don't work out 7 days a week. Do not work out 7 days a week.
Remember, natty or not.
Dude, at the end of the day, we're breaking down muscle fiber and we have to eat and rest to recover, to build it and make it stronger and bigger. So a simple explanation, everyone's a little different and there's different training styles like high intensity, like Dorian did, the Nautilus experiment with Casey Viator and Arthur Jones. Where they
There's a side story to that though, where Casey would go and train a second. Yeah. In over 20 years of coaching, I've never seen anyone grow faster on 6 or 7 days a week training than they do at 5 days a week training. And not every really rapid growth person has tried this, but as far as I can recall, everyone who's tried 4 days a week training grew faster than 5 days. And I wouldn't go less than 4, but it seems to be 4 to 5 days a week training. We just get it so wrong. I mean, all you have to do is look in the gym. Everyone in the gym is training. They're all doing the same movements. They're all doing bench press for chest. None of them look like bodybuilders, you know? So it's not the training. I would go so far as to say, you could train like a complete pussy. No, let's leave anabolic. Let's say anabolics are either everyone's natty or everyone's taking the exact same thing. You take a group of 100 people and they're all taking the exact same thing. So we remove that from the equation. Yeah. And you have people who train like an absolute pussy but eat perfectly. Eat like the most focused bodybuilder on earth. They're going to look like a bodybuilder. You take those same people and you have them train like an animal but eat like garbage. They will not look like a bodybuilder. Yeah. So, we put too much emphasis on training. You need to create a stimulus, but you can work this out for yourself. If you do 0 sets of anything, my mic's down too low. You do 0 sets of anything, you're not going to grow, obviously. So what happens if you go to the gym and do 1 set? You're going to grow better than if you did 0, right? If you do 2 sets, you're going to grow better if you did 1. Now, if you will go in and do 3 sets, you can assume you'll grow better than if you just did 2. But already at just 3 sets, you could think about it, be like, geez, if I did 2 all-out sets of squats, can I guarantee a 3rd set's going to give me bigger quads? Yeah. So we're doing guys are doing 20 sets. If you can't with your current workout, say however many sets you're doing for chest, if you add 1 more set, you can guarantee more growth. Then you're already training more than what you at that point. Already your diet is the limiting factor for growth. You're already creating more stimulus than your diet can cover. And all of us are at that number. We don't know we don't want to toe that line because you don't know when the number is too few sets but we know everyone who's training hard and doing a standard bodybuilding type workout is doing more than enough sets and volume to grow. So we all think training is everything, and you need to train hard. You should, because you don't want to be a pussy, but you can train like a pussy and grow if you eat perfectly.
Yeah. Matt, we're going to answer some of your questions. You got good questions, man. We're going to get one from Bobby. If you did stall real close to a show and had to take a break, what type of time frame did you take for it? So I'll say for me, because this happened with me and Justin, so I won a regional show and we won the overall. And then we did something that we thought was going to work. We tried to go a little lower calories into USAs. And by the time we got to USAs, my body was not responding. So I took about a year and a half off and I went and won the Arnold Amateur, those super heavies. So it seemed to me like I took about a year off. I'm sure I didn't need to.
But that's actually a good point, though, of why, how things change, because you went into the Arnold Amateur, rested, and we nailed it. You won the super heavies. Now, how long was your off season before you started prepping for North Americans?
About 3 months, but this time we didn't try to hold the calories.
Yeah. So that's what, when the person said it's like trying to measure or saying how long a piece of string is without, without giving any other parameters. There's so many other variables.
So many different.
Yeah.
Because we're about the same time as we were before USAs, maybe a little bit longer.
But a totally different approach.
But completely different approach. If we're like 3 months, let's just eat. And it seems to have worked well.
Goon with 6 days, you can do whatever you want. You can get away with it. You're not going to get in trouble, but just know that if you're training 6 days a week, you're not going to grow as fast as if you train 4 or 5. And for a lot of us, training is therapy, and that's worth the concession. A lot of people will train 7 days a week just because they need it as their therapy, even though they know they won't grow as much. But no, you won't grow. If you're doing a train 6 days a week, do it because you enjoy training, but don't expect to grow better from it, because you don't grow from training. You grow from eating. Nothing about training builds a muscle. It doesn't. Muscles are made of proteins, the protein structures, and then there's sarcoplasmic stuff that correlates with glycogen and water retention and sodium balance and stuff like that. But none of that is from training. Training will create a stimulus. mTOR will trigger muscle protein synthesis. However, you get a a nearly equivalent trigger muscle protein synthesis after a high protein meal as you do after a training session. And you can, I don't have the research study in front of me, but there's one study that showed eating, I can't remember what the macronutrient ratios were, showed a trigger muscle protein synthesis roughly equivalent to whatever their training was, which wasn't a full bodybuilding workout. It was probably like 3 sets of 10 for multiple muscle groups. But you got a similar increase in muscle protein synthesis for an hour and a half after each meal as they did after the weight training session.
All right, so we might have to.
Yeah, you guys are firing them off.
Justin, are we making really quick? Are we making a heart health supplement with?
Yeah, I mean, I have one formulated with nattokinase and a few other things. The problem is it won't be a big seller, and we're beefing up our manufacturing still. You know, we're getting this new WTF run done. It's hard. I mean, I love you guys. God bless everyone that's buying our stuff. I mean, it's blowing up quicker than we could have ever imagined. But we started as a small company and trying to scale our manufacturing for basically 100% month over month growth for the first quarter of this year. And then we're still getting like 25% month over month growth, where, you know, the manufacturing process between production run, quality controls, third-party testing, shipping to our warehouse can be 6 to 8 weeks. And so we're a totally different company every 8 weeks at this point. So trying to guesstimate all those things has been difficult. So we've got a number of products designed already. We just need to beef up our manufacturing. We're working on it. We're getting a warehouse closer to where we live now. We're getting one in Michigan. We're working on getting a center in the UK, the EU, that will distribute to European customers. We're working on getting secondary manufacturing companies that can help us pick up the slack, because, you know, we can't run more than one product at a time. You know, you got to get the whole vat set up, all the product, all mixed in the amount for however many bottles you plan to run. And I mean, if anyone's tried to like make pills themselves, you know, it's not like we have like some super advanced Tesla style like gigapress that's doing this stuff, you know. So there's only so fast we can make things. Yeah, so there's one kind of design, but it won't be anytime soon. We have a non-stim a pre-workout we want to get out. We're working on a reformulation of field rations actually for the NFL. And 1D Talks with John Heck, who's strength and conditioning coach for the Texans. We just got off the podcast with him about 10 minutes before this. We're going to be talking to their dietitian about trying to implement that, and that will have to take priority because that'll be massive volumes. We have Suppressor Max, which is coming out, going through production currently. I have a nootropic. I mean, we have a meal replacement protein powder, like a real food protein. I got all the ideas. We're trying to scaling the business is hard.
Yeah, and Goon posted about the training that did Dorian lack arms without an arm day, though? I would say
Dorian lacked arms, but that's not, you can't make a one-to-one correlation because Ronnie Coleman didn't have an arm day.
Yeah. I would say Dorian, if you guys don't know, Dorian was one of the thickest front to back people like ever. Like when he turned sideways, he was like the thickest ever. So when you're that thick, sometimes having big arms aren't big enough. So you know, that's a genetic thing.
Yeah, but you can't make that correlation though, because Ronnie Coleman didn't have an arm day and the dude had 20 arms.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can train twice a day, 7 days a week if you want. I mean, Roman Fritz trains 7 days a week. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, I've coached a lot of people over a lot of years, and I've never once seen anyone grow faster training any more than 5 days a week.
Yeah. And so, Justin, someone asked if, you know, the literature, obviously, for your coaching and stuff like that, let them know where they can get that at. Guys, if you want to find out more of what Justin knows and the science behind, you know, all of this that we're talking about.
Yeah, you can get, we have ebooks at Troponin Nutrition, First Attachment. The two true textbook, type ebooks would be Comprehensive Performance Nutrition Volume 1, which is almost all nutrition and carb cycling based, and Comprehensive Performance Nutrition Volume 2, which covers a whole wide range of topics, including anabolics and training and just like interesting topics. And then Comprehensive Performance Nutrition Volume 3 is basically on teamtroponin.com now. There's several hundred posts, several hundred, I think we're over 100 hours of video now. But that's where it would be. And but like that, those are the only places, because that's the big problem with performance nutrition is there's nutrition, dietitians don't care about performance nutrition. There's no job in that. So the colleges, if you're in a nutrition program, they have to prepare you. They have to teach you, that you need more vitamin C if you're a smoker. They have to teach you that you can become biotin deficient if you don't cook your egg whites. They need to treat you, if you're folate deficient, how that affects protein metabolism. They don't teach you things like how to optimize performance by cycling carbohydrates or using high molecular weight carbohydrates or any of the things we're interested in.
So Justin, we got a good one. I think we almost skipped over it. And we've talked about this before, how it's tougher for bigger guys. But the Jefferson said he got a glucose monitor. He's running. When do people start running into issues with nutrient partitioning? Is it above 150 blood sugar, which is pretty high? So
yeah,
I would say
that's loaded also though, because I hate blood sugar. I mean, I don't hate blood sugar, but blood sugar readings they're like a screenshot of a much bigger thing. I prefer A1C to see where your true like standard blood sugar levels are. That's a better idea, because you can blood sugar 150 90 minutes after a very high carb meal is high, but not outrageous, and you can expect it'll come back down, and you could probably still have a fasted reading under 100, no problem, and you might have an A1C under 5.3. 150 is pretty high though, but I don't like to do meal by meal, because people stress too much about it, and they try to optimize it too much. And what you do is guys will use insulin and things like that to optimize it, or adjust their diet to optimize it, which you don't want to do. Your diet should be focused on what makes you grow, what makes progress, and whatever strategy you're doing, not just optimizing blood sugar. Yes, you want optimal blood sugar, but you don't want to change your meals or reduce carbs based on that. You want to change your diet based on how you're progressing. People put too much emphasis on it, and what they'll do is they'll try to get their blood sugar to a certain point after using insulin. The problem with that is one meal where you do that and go too far and you go hypo and it makes you eat off plan does more damage than 1,000 meals of having a slightly higher blood sugar than you think you should for 20 minutes, for a 20-minute period, 90 minutes after a meal. So again, that's a tough answer, but you want to keep your A1C under about 5, definitely under 5.3, preferably under 5.1, and that should be the main goal.
Yeah, Jimmy got a good question about IGF LR3, which is obviously the longer.
It's Gummin, is it correct? I don't know how to read phonetic, but I think we're saying it wrong.
Gummin, yeah, Gummin.
Jimmy, any benefit at all to the IGF LR3 peptide? Probably. I mean, everything we know about IGF-1 is, it's across the board. It's insulinogenic. It's more insulinogenic than actual insulin on a milligram for milligram basis. So even if that's all it's doing, we know there's benefit, because when insulin binds to a cell, or when IGF-1 creates an insulin-like action on the cell, what it does is and I always do the same thing, because I always picture like a receptor on a cell like this, like a little thing with a basket, and the hormone or whatever pops into that basket and fits there, and it shuffles some proteins around, and it's like in your shower where you open the drain and then it allows nutrients to flood in. And so even if that's all it's doing, there's benefit. Now on that point, then it's a cost to benefit analysis, because it's very expensive. But I've seen it work. I've seen IGF-1 and IGF-1 LR3 both work repeatedly. When used in the right amounts, which is slightly higher than a higher range, then it gets very expensive. But if you can manage it, I would definitely use GH first. But if you're using anabolics, GH, and insulin, and you have the ability, the sourcing, and the funds to add IGF-1, you'll benefit from it.
So Justin, we got two good ones. Answer that Paul one first, and then the Devin one. The Paul one, I think you can get out.
Suppressor on 0 carb days. Yes, it's on all days. Just because you're not eating carbs, your protein is almost the same as a carbohydrate, because you could do the math. Your muscles are protein, and they're made of amino acids, and so like if you're eating 300 grams of protein, you're eating just under a pound of protein a day. So anything less than a pound of muscle you're gaining means that protein isn't being utilized to build new muscle. That protein is going through other pathways, and most of it gets converted to a carbohydrate. So there's always a benefit because you can actually spike your blood sugar just with protein. Drink a huge whey isolate shake and track your blood sugar. It'll spike. And so, yes, there's benefits to Suppressor on all days. And really, Suppressor is an interesting product because, like we can't trust that everyone buying our supplements is going to be like a super focused bodybuilder. So we have to say take 5 pills a day or people won't take it or buy it. But the real, true, perfect dose for Suppressor is 1 capsule every single meal you eat because berberine breaks down quickly. It's got a short half-life. It exerts its action pretty quickly. And so you want to basically just take 1 capsule with every meal you ever eat. If you eat 6 meals a day, you would take a little bit more than you need to because the bottle dose is 5 capsules a day. But that's really what you want to do. Every meal, low carb day, high carb day. It's not like some magic thing. People think of GDAs wrong. They think like, oh, I can eat them on a high carb day and eat more carbs or eat junk. No, it's what you're doing is you're improving your the way berberine tends to work is through a cascade reaction with IGF-1. And so you're improving your body's ability to produce insulin-like products to control blood sugar, which is always good. It's got fenugreek, which increases pancreatic secretion. The beta cells secrete more insulin in response to carbohydrates, or a better reaction, I guess. RALA, which increases tissue sensitivity to the insulin you do produce. We got cinnamon, which increases insulin the sensitivity of the tissues and increases bioavailability of berberine. And we got piperine, which also increases bioavailability of berberine. And Suppressor Max is going to have a novel compound that no one else is producing that dramatically improves the effectiveness, duration, and action of berberine.
But we haven't released Suppressor Max yet.
No, we got the labels are done. Labels are printed. Production's going. It's soon. But again, production takes time. Quality control takes time. Third-party testing takes time. Shipping to the warehouse takes time.
Devin had an interesting question about gear availability back when you were really pushing it hard.
When I was pushing it hard, it was a little more available because that's right when China opened up. When I first started when I first started trying to get it in the late 90s, first started getting it in the 2000s, you would find some dude in Romania who would charge $300 for a bottle of Deca that may or not include any actual Deca. But if it came from an actual pharmacy, and it would come in like an old tape deck, like you used to have before CDs, and they put the little ampules of Sustanon or Primobolan, and they tape them all in there.
You have to crack the ampule.
Yeah. Or you'd get a guy who would make like a clay thing, or a common one where they'd take a picture frame and they'd slide them all in the back and then have like a soft, almost like a cardboard paper backing to the picture frame, and you'd get a picture in the mail. But if you cracked it open, you'd see all your gear laid out, and stuff was outrageously expensive, very difficult to get. And you had to know a guy, and it was like 50-50 at best. Your stuff was coming, unless you knew a guy at the gym. Where I trained, I was small town, small gym. I didn't know a guy at the gym.
Dude, we got Big George Cooper up in here.
What's up, George?
He's a troponin guy, so he's got a good question about sodium intake.
Do you ever suggest someone to lower sodium intake that's experiencing significant water retention when taking GH to its effect? That's a tough one because, yes, in the short term, that will improve water retention. However, in the long term, it'll have the opposite effect. What's up, Blue Collar Bodybuilding? Mr. Canny on the board. Nerds, hey, what the hell? I thought it said studs when I first read that. But so that's a tricky thing because nothing's as front. Oh, Suppressor Max should be less than months, hopefully a month. Yes, that's the sodium retention, and the GH is going to increase that. However, the more sodium you eat, your body has to maintain its blood at 0.9% sodium. So when your body retains more sodium, that means more sodium stays in the blood. So to keep it at 0.9%, you have to hold more water. But when it sees more water, it wants to get rid of that water. So the body starts trying to adjust its output of antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone to flush out more sodium. And eventually your body will catch up to that. And so, yes, lowering sodium in the short term will help. But the problem is long term to maintain stable blood water levels, you actually want high sodium. That will keep that will, because then the body is used to flushing high amounts of sodium, flushing high amounts of water. And so then in addition of a new product, like adding more GH, a higher dose GH, or a high sodium meal, those things won't have such an effect because the body's so good already at flushing it out. So if you're just starting GH and you're in the post-contest period, that's a doubly tough one, because that might be a case where water retention gets so high, I might recommend lowering sodium a little bit. But you're not fixing the problem, you're just delaying the problem.
Yeah. So Justin, I wanted to ask you this really quick. Did you see the latest John Wick, the newest John Wick?
No, not yet. No.
Have you seen any of the John Wicks? Let me ask you that.
I don't get to watch movies or TV.
Okay, well, you gotta see the John Wicks.
I haven't moved from this chair since 7 a.m. It's almost 9.
Yeah, the latest John Wick one is really good though. There's one more question I wanted to get in from that we got sent in. Excuse me.
Real quick, the Road Warriors. There's something specific to orals that make them harder on kidneys and injectables besides blood pressure. They're really not harder on the kidneys rather than blood. They're harder on the liver. Yeah, they aren't processed by So I'm assuming everyone knows C17 methylated. So the steroid carbon structure is a 6-6-6-5-6-6-6 carbon structure chain. If you add a methyl group to the 17th carbon in that chain, then the first pass through the liver will break off that methyl group, and it won't get passed through. It'll go make a second trip through the body and then go through the liver again. And that's why orals are hard on the liver. They're just, and the other thing is, like, you take a shot of testosterone, it's 5 to 7 days that it's in your system. So it slowly builds up. You take 50 milligrams of Adderall, 8 hours later, it's already went through a full half-life. So anything it's doing happens, bam, so much quicker, so much harder. So it's spiking blood pressure faster. It's affecting sodium retention faster and stronger. It's doing all the things that, like, the injectables take days to do in a period of hours.
So we got a question. Any benefit to using a pump formula during prep? I just like using one to feel a pump. Is there any advantage like using WTF while you're flat?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're not going to be full, anybody's dieting, no, but you want to get as much as you can, because part of the problem with pump formulas is they work to cause vasodilation and dilate the blood vessels, but you need fluid volume for that. You can picture a garden hose, well, when you're dehydrated and dry, your garden hose is the size it is for a reason, because that's how much fluid you have. If you dilate that garden hose really big, but you don't have any more fluid, it's going to be like, I think we talked about this before, like when Andy Dufresne and Shawshank Redemption's crawling through that shit tunnel, there's just a little bit of water or shit at the bottom. Dilating doesn't get to do that much. But if you do like what we do with W2F, which is include a sodium complex, then you're going to get a short-term increase of water retention in the bloodstream to boost up that blood volume. So really, as far when you're dieting, the best pump product is really sodium first, and then a pump product to combine with the sodium.
Sean's got a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I wish I had the study on this too. I need to save all these in a file to pop up. I read a study, this is on T3, but they tracked people who were using T3 up to 100 micrograms per day for a decade straight was the highest, longest term dose.
Good Lord, man.
Every single subject returned to normal thyroid production within 4 weeks.
And so that was every day.
Yeah, it blew my mind for a decade. I thought for sure they would need to be on. So like I'm rethinking everything I thought I knew about thyroid upregulation and downregulation.
Yeah.
And if your TSH was that low, that's good. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. When that number gets high, it means your body thinks there's not enough thyroid and it needs to output more T4, which can get converted to T3. If your TSH is low, that means your body says, we got more than enough thyroid. I don't need to stimulate any more production. Yeah, say what exactly? God, go find the study. If you search T3, 100 micrograms, 10 years, return to baseline, you'll find it. I searched it for it a couple times. It pops up. Yeah, it completely blew my mind away because I was absolutely sure that wouldn't have been the case. But it was a legitimate research study, and I don't know that you'll ever find any other studies on that because who's doing that? But the way thyroid, like the way Synthroid is prescribed, it's not prescribed. Like typically people assume they'll need to be on it for life, but it's not prescribed like that. Like people will take it and come off it. And if they don't know bodybuilding, they don't know that it's supposed to ruin their thyroid production, their natural production. Normal people do it and don't know about that, and they don't need to know about it because it appears that they don't need to. It's wild. Iodine increasing thyroid production. Yeah, I mean, anyone that go to like some, I shouldn't be laughing, but you can find a lot of people with goiters in third world countries who don't get enough iodine, and that's why most table salt is loaded with iodine now. So iodine will, but it won't increase thyroid production. It will prevent a reduction in natural thyroid production. It's not like it'll really boost it to super physiological levels.
Yeah, and then so people are more commenting on
you stopped a week before and your TSH was. That's interesting. I would want to see what your TSH did for the next couple weeks to see if it spiked in response, because it's because TSH is going to be rock bottom when you're on 100 micrograms, because it doesn't need to produce. Your body doesn't need to produce any of its own. You already have way too much. I wouldn't be surprised if it climbed after in the 2 or 3 weeks. But that, I mean, if it was. Yeah, if it's that low, that's got to be what it was. If your TSH was a little bit higher, I would say it could have been that you just recovered that quickly.
Yeah.
When I say sodium high, for someone your size, George, 6 to 8 grams per day. Don't do that right now if you just started GH and you were recently dieting. But by the end of off season, you would want to be at 6 to 8 grams a day. It just removes so many problems. Sodium acts like an androgen in the body. One of the side effects of aldactone, which works on aldosterone, which is how your body flushes sodium, is bitch tits. And even more, if you're a chick and you have acne, one of the first things they'll prescribe is aldactone, a diuretic that pushes sodium out of your body, because it changes it reduces those hormones that cause acne. So sodium acts like an androgen in the body. You really want high sodium, so much so that like drugs that lower sodium directly can give you gyno and reduce acne, meaning they lower male sex hormones.
So DK, man, I'm gonna say it's DK athlete 77. So this is another question that, guys, we're not gonna be able to really tell you what to do because it's just too much, right? It's too many variables. But if last few weeks of prep, food's pretty much as low as you could probably make it. To push it further, so I try removing fats and what little carbs I have. So you're pretty much saying, do you just want to eat protein? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. The last thing I remove is added fats, and I never do that for really more than 5 weeks. I'll remove fats at 6 weeks. It was John saying I beg to differ on that.
I was the weird prep.
I'll never do it again.
I'm not going to talk about that.
But like once you pull fats, things suck very quickly. Progress happens very quickly because there's no long duration energy source. You don't have any glycogen anymore, by that point in the prep, and so you're burning more fat. And then when you remove fat from the diet, fat loss is accelerated from the muscle, but everything's accelerated, and you'll run straight through any glycogen store you have, and you'll feel like shit, and you'll get really dehydrated because you'll drop so much because you don't have any glycogen, and glycogen is 4 times as much water as it is glucose. So a lot of your water in your level, thank you, Sean, very much, is based on your carb intake. So when you remove fats after a low carb diet, you got about a month before you're in absolute hell misery. But it's too difficult of a question to answer that, because it's not one answer.
And then we got a good one on glycerol. So most I know most pump products and stuff sometimes throw that in there nowadays.
Yeah. I don't like it. I mean, what else? I mean, I don't know what else you can add. It's good. I don't think it's. I don't want to say much because our product will probably have glycerol. I don't like it because you can't keep your product from caking long term, no matter how much silicate packs or water absorbing packs you have in the container. If you have a pump product laced with glycerol and you leave it in a cupboard for more than 2 months, it's caked up in garbage. So I hate glycerol for that reason, and I don't because I don't think it's that amazing for pump. For pump, it's really sodium. You want something to increase blood volume, which is sodium. You spike the blood sodium levels. Your body has to hold more water to keep sodium at the same level. And then you want something to dilate the blood vessels, especially the blood vessels of the peripheries, so that all that water can get to the muscle you're training. Glycerol works, but it's not as effective as I think people think it is, but everyone uses it. And it's like, it's one of those things, like if we don't put it in, I'll have to make 10-minute videos explaining why that no one will ever listen to. And then any one of our competitors can advertise. They don't even have glycerol, but it's not my favorite.
So I got a question. What are your favorite exercise for hamstrings and glutes? Well, for me personally, studies have come out also about the lengthening of the hamstring and when most growth occurs in the lengthening portion of the hamstring movement. So I would say that my favorite hamstring movements are definitely some sort of like an RDL, borderline stiff leg, whether you're using a Smith machine because you can sit back into it. If you use a normal barbell, you sort of have to reach forward with the bar, and sometimes that can be a little iffy. I've tweaked my hamstring more than once on that because of that. So I like to do Smith machine and really sit back into it. And then also one of my favorite ones is when I'm either a standing one leg hamstring curl or a seated hamstring curl. I'll do a controlled movement to where I'm contracting the hamstring. I'm holding it for like a 1 Mississippi in the contraction. And then by the end of the set, I usually do like 2 to 3 sets, depending on where I'm at in prep. But then at the end, I'll do to failure, and I'll just do partials to failure right in that lengthened portion. And that one seems to have brought the old sweep up a little bit, that old hang, that hammy hang. So
I think the lengthening stuff, that and then like glute stuff is really interesting research people are putting out right now, because up until 15 years ago, bodybuilders didn't do anything but leg curling movements for hamstrings. And you can see how much hamstring development has improved since that's changed. Where's one, L-tyrosine? Yeah, the L-tyrosine was a business decision. I really wanted a fat burner. If you notice, there's 120 servings in each bottle. Most people sell a fat burner with like 30 servings. Ours is 120 servings. And I wanted that because, like when you're in prep, eventually you get so desensitized to caffeine and stuff that one serving doesn't do anything. So I wanted even like our caffeine junkies to be able to have one bottle last a full month if they're taking like 2 servings twice a day. With L-tyrosine, you need at least 1 gram to do anything, and so you're talking, we're basically more than doubling our pill size just for one additional ingredient. That is a way secondary precursor to the adrenaline hormone. So how L-tyrosine works is L-tyrosine starts the dopaminergic pathway, converts to dopamine, which then converts to, it doesn't directly convert to dopamine. It's L-tyrosine, then L-dopa, then dopamine, then it goes to norepinephrine and epinephrine. And those are the adrenaline hormones, and that's what you want. But it's a really poor converter. And even at 1 gram, like you can picture, you're getting like way less than 1%, and so 1% of that would be, you're getting like 1/100 of 100%. So basically 1 gram of L-tyrosine is probably equivalent to like 1 milligram of an amphetamine salt, that, as far as effectiveness. So it's, it was definitely on the radar, but it's just the volume and what I wanted to do with the product. I hated caffeine junkie. I hated that any other fat burner, I'd have to go through at least 2 bottles every month as far as to get anything out of it. Where if you're not a caffeine addict, our Go pills might last 4 months. If you're a caffeine addict, even at the highest level, a bottle is going to last a month.
So I got to respond to something really quick. So Lando, I wasn't dressed as a woman. I was dressed. So it's from the show called Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you see on Justin's shirt,
why can't
so I'm dressed as Danny DeVito, who is playing an art critic. And so he's trying to be this extravagant art critic. So I'm playing
Ongo Jablogian.
Yeah, Ongo Gablogian. So I'm dressed as Danny DeVito. So I was not a female, but if I am, I don't know, then this podcast.
You could be a female.
Yeah, but
are Go pills safe to stack with Adderall? I mean, Adderall is going to be the risk in that. Yeah, they work through completely different pathways. So Adderall is going to be what Adderall does. If people don't know how it works, it's basically, it's just amphetamine, but it's I'll just leave it at that. It's just an amphetamine, different versions of amphetamines. Go Pills works. The caffeine and the teacrine in it work through adenosine, which is the opposite of amphetamine. It works to block those. The caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, and the teacrine reduces the amount of adenosine in the body. There's some like beta adrenergic effect from the caffeine, but it's really mild. And the only studies that really show it are in mice, and mice produce beta 1 and beta 2 differently than we do. So they're two totally different pathways. However, they are both stimulants. So yeah, you can take Broncaid with it. Allegedly, Go Pills was designed to work perfectly with 25 milligrams of Broncaid per serving. I can't confirm or deny that, but you could. It's been argued that is, assuming the Broncaid is legal, the most effective legal fat burner that you can make. Injectable L-carnitine, yes, I'm in. If you're willing to pin at least 3 cc's every single day, that's the problem. The other problem is insulin is what drives it into the cell, and you need carbs to produce insulin. And so on very low carb diets, you're not going to get much out of it. And yeah, and it's, you got to think like how, like how entropy works. If you're taking a gram of injectable L-carnitine, can you expect to even that, if that's a perfect 100% conversion, meaning every single microgram of that L-carnitine goes to convert to burn a microgram of fat, means you're getting a gram of fat loss out of it. I think you get more than that, but the hang up is that the injection volume is so high. The science is clear, but you need carbs or insulin, which you don't get much of in a diet, and you need to pin a shitload, like at least a gram a day.
Yeah. And so let's see what we had here. These comments came in. I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to keep up with them.
Patterns, that might be the study, Sean, if you find it. Yeah, it's wild. It completely blew my mind. It was like everything I thought I knew, because you thought, I mean, everyone's worried about down regulation. We thought everyone's worried about taking T3. Every figure girl is convinced that they need to be on T3 for life because they took too much of it. But that study, I mean, I'm surprised no one else really talked about it, because it blew me away.
Now, I'll say, Justin, when you're talking about injections with Canny up there, I have some stories about, hearing from older generations of where they pinned as pros and stuff like that. One of some of the stories that I was told, and was even possibly told to do myself, was, pin your hamstrings before you train hamstrings. Pin the middle of have someone pin your spinal erectors before you train back. Of course, pin your lats and stuff like that.
There was a period in the late 90s, early 2000s where it got pretty wild. There were
spot injections and
bodybuilders meeting with basically plastic surgeons to do up to like 150 separate injections. It got a little wild with it.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, I couldn't imagine. I knew a guy personally. I won't say his name, but he shouldn't have done this, right? And he was more of like a powerlifter that was more just enjoying it, right? It wasn't super competitive at a high level, but he pinned his calf, and I was like, dude, the fascia's so tight. So I already knew. I had told people not to do it, and then he came back and did it. So I'll say that if I did that, I don't think I would have just like manned up and like sucked up, been like, all right, I screwed up. But he went to the ER because it was so painful.
You can get compartment syndrome.
Yeah, it was so painful. Luckily he didn't. He was good, but he was just in so much pain that he was like, dude, I can't walk.
Yeah, there was I'm going to have to get off in 4 minutes. I got another thing at 9, so we'll have to wrap this up. But yeah, if you go back and look from about, I think 1999 was the peak. If you look at the 99 Olympia, everybody's calves looked ridiculous.
Insane.
Yeah, and if you look at the 2000 to 2003 Olympia, all those competitors lost their calves.
You talking about the one with Dexter too?
Yeah, the tissue dies off. Ronnie's died. I mean, I don't want to say names, but you can go look at the 99 Olympia and look at how freaky quite a number of people's calves were, and then look where their calves were 3 years later, because that tissue just dies off. That fascia is so thick and so strong.
Yeah.
Am I a fan of Carderine? Yes, I am. Yes, for fat loss. I don't think it's that great for fat loss, but it's still too new, because I don't have a hard line opinion on it because it's new. but I've seen people doing 20 milligrams of Carderine per day on a contest diet. We're going up to a milligram of Arimidex every single day with 10 milligrams of Novadex every day. The last, I can't remember how many weeks, have an HDL of 37 after their show. So it's from that standpoint, the HDL with Carderine, I'm a big fan of.
So
yeah, almost nothing orally. It's got to be injectable, Lando. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you only need 2 at most, I guess. But I mean, yeah, that's just of all the things. If I'm pinning, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, the mechanism of action works. I've never seen anyone. The fall off rate. Everyone wants to start it, and maybe they start at 16 weeks out. The number of people who are still pinning L-carnitine every single day, going into the last week of their prep, is to a first order approximation 0. I don't know if I've ever had someone maintain it.
That's a lot of pinning, guys. Like, that's a lot. So.
And every time a needle punctures your skin, or especially muscle tissue, you're damaging that muscle. You're creating scar tissue, and that scar tissue is no longer muscle.
Yeah, it's not worth it, in my opinion. Yeah.
So I thought there was one. What about TNE suspension for localized effects? But yeah, definitely there's spotting that, but that's a different. You're not. The stuff gets into your bloodstream so quickly and goes systemic so quickly. I don't think you get really much localized hypertrophy. You do, however, get localized tissue swelling that lasts much longer than the injection lasts. And I'm talking like potentially months, and when they build up, potentially a year. And so when you see guys with really round delts, you can get like a syntho-like effect. And it's not even from the oil, because the amount, if you've ever seen someone like get an abscess lanced and see how much oil comes out, it's not the oil that's causing it, because you abscess, you need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ml in oil, but you get something that irritates and inflames the tissue, like a steroid structure, which is like a crystalline structure when it dissolves out of solution, irritates the site, swells the site, draws fluid to the site, and that sticks around, like the half-life of Cypionate is like what, 5 days or something. So that means at 10 days it's still 25% active. At 15 days it's 12.5% active. Well, you do that shot after shot after shot after shot for months or years. You've got, it'll take months for all that localized swelling to fall off, and that's really the benefit of spot injecting. I don't believe TNE. I don't believe you're going to get improved, because it hits that bloodstream, and especially if you're training that muscle, it's systemic. As soon as you get a pump, it's throughout your whole body.
Yeah. And so, Skylar, I saw your question. That's actually one of my buddies, one of my clients. So I'm gonna hit him up after, but we're gonna wrap it up. It's 9:00 here at PM. And so, thanks you guys for tuning in again. We love doing this stuff with you guys. We'll do a funny one again soon, so don't worry. We'll talk about aliens again soon.
Yeah, I like those ones. I mean, I like these ones, but
for Justin Harris and myself, signing out, Goon Platoon. See you later, guys.